Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into something truly epic, the origins of Lord Rama and the princes of Ayodhya. You know, if you've ever wondered how a legacy of absolute virtue actually gets forged, well, spoiler alert, it doesn't start with a massive victory. It actually begins with a really deep royal sorrow. Let's get right into the source material.
So, let's kick things off with a pretty fascinating paradox. Think about this for a second. How does a glorious, incredibly powerful kingdom with absolutely zero heirs somehow forge history's greatest symbol of truth and virtue? It's wild, but King Dasharatha's greatest vulnerability, literally the total lack of a successor, is exactly what becomes the catalyst for an absolute legend. That fundamental question is going to frame everything we explore today.
All right, part 1. The king's great sorrow, the missing heir of Ayodhya.
To set the stage here, King Dasharatha essentially had ultimate earthly success, right? We're talking immense prosperity, unchallenged power, deep wisdom, the whole shebang. But he lacked the one single thing required to secure his legacy, which was a child. Now, for a monarch, an empty throne isn't just, a personal grief. It's a looming, massive geopolitical crisis for the entire realm. All the wealth in Ayodhya couldn't buy the one asset the kingdom desperately needed for its very survival.
Which brings us to part 2, the sacred fire ritual, seeking divine intervention.
Now, to solve the succession crisis, Dasharatha didn't just cross his fingers and hope for the best. He initiated something called the Putrakameshti Yagna. And look, this wasn't just your everyday run-of-the-mill prayer. It was a highly specific, incredibly intense sacred fire ritual seeking direct divine intervention. And guess what? It actually worked. Human desperation met a divine response, resulting in a sacred offering pulled right from the fire. This is that absolutely critical pivot point where earthly limitations are completely broken by cosmic action.
Okay, part 3. Birth of the princes, the queens, and their divine sons.
So in just a single generational shift, the kingdom's entire fate was completely transformed. From that one divine offering we just talked about, Dasharatha's 3 queens gave birth to 4 royal princes. Queen Kaushalya welcomed Rama, Queen Kaikeyi gave birth to Bharata, and Queen Sumitra had twins, Lakshmana and Shatrughna. Just like that, this heirless, vulnerable kingdom suddenly possessed a formidable, undeniable future. Talk about a total game changer.
But we really have to look a bit closer at the firstborn. Rama wasn't just a prince destined to wear a crown. He was the 7th incarnation of Lord Vishnu. And guys, that is a massive distinction. It means Rama carried a profound cosmic destiny from his very first breath. He was stepping into the world not just to rule a geopolitical kingdom, but to fundamentally balance the universe itself and uphold divine order. When you think about it, that is a staggering burden for a newborn prince to carry.
Let's look at how they grew up in part 4. Brotherhood and education, preparing the ultimate symbols of virtue.
Right away, a beautiful, foundational dynamic quickly emerges between the brothers, but specifically between Rama and Lakshmana. Rama becomes defined by his inherent kindness, his deep wisdom, and just an unwavering sense of righteousness. And Lakshmana? Well, he becomes the perfect mirror to that. He's defined by fierce, constant devotion, staying by Rama's side literally at all times. It is an absolutely incredible pairing. You have this divine righteousness that's firmly supported and protected by unshakable loyalty.
Of course, raw virtue needs to be honed, right? Placed under the guidance of the great sage Vishwamitra, the princes were put through what was essentially a rigorous elite curriculum. I mean, they didn't just learn warfare, they mastered the complex scriptures to understand the universe, and they studied the incredibly heavy civic duties required of kings. It was the ultimate leadership toolkit, perfectly balancing the mind, the body, and complex statecraft to forge leaders who are both spiritually enlightened and fiercely capable.
Which leads us into part 5, a legacy of virtue, the beginning of a legendary life.
So, everything we've covered today, the deep royal sorrow, the sacred fire of the Putrakameshti Yagna, the divine birth, and Vishwamitra's rigorous education, all of it served as an unshakable foundation. This wasn't just a privileged royal childhood in Ayodhya, not at all. It was the meticulous, deliberate construction of a prince built to embody absolute truth and virtue in human form. The raw materials of the divine were meticulously refined into the ultimate leader. To wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this final thought. We've seen the perfect setup, right? But as Rama leaves his idyllic childhood behind, how is this carefully crafted foundation of righteousness going to hold up against the trials of his destiny? Because, let's be honest, Virtue is pretty easy to maintain in a prosperous palace. But what happens when it meets the harsh, complex realities of the wider world? Keep that in mind, keep seeking out the sources, and I will catch you on the next explainer.